Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I am going to be updating you on how I did with my These Books Will Self Destruct TBR from this time last year. For anyone who doesn't know, These Books Will Self Destruct in 12 months is basically a video concept where you name some books on your physical TBR that you have owned a long time but not read yet, and the goal is to read them in the next year or unhaul them. The books that I named in my last video were Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake, Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young, A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro, and Darken by Kirsten White, and Fox by Nadine Brandis. So pretty much all young adult fantasy, which I bought several years ago, fully intending to read them, but now young adult fantasy is not really my vibe anymore, hence how they ended up in this video. Now I am here today to update you on how I did with these books, hint, not well, and also talk about an upcoming idea related to this topic I have for my channel. So, out of these 5 books, how many did I read in the last year? 1. I read 1. 2, I did not even pick up. And 2, I DNF'd, so that's not great. Obviously, you know, I would have loved it if I could have read all of these and ended up surprisingly loving them. That didn't happen, but that's okay, and now I know, what books I'm good to unhaul. Let's start with the one book I did read, which was Three Dark Crowns. I believe my subscribers voted for me to read this one. And while I didn't love it, honestly, it was better than I was expecting. This is the first in a fantasy series that follows triplet sisters, and basically in this fantasy world, every generation, the queen, because they're ruled by a queen, will give birth to triplet daughters, and in order to decide which one of them becomes the next queen, they have to have a fight to the death. Yeah, intense, I know. And even though young adult fantasy is not my vibe anymore, I thought this book was all in all pretty solid. I did like some of the characters, and I thought it had a really good ending. I just don't think my interest was piqued enough for me to continue reading the series. It's just not something I see myself motivated to pick up in the future. The character of Jules, who is not one of the triplets, but is a POV character, she really didn't work for me. I didn't get her or what made her so special. She just seemed pretty bland to me. And there was also a bit of romance in this book with this guy who really did not deserve 2 women fighting over him because he was kind of the worst and had no personality. So I don't get why these 2 women were so into him, because he had the personality of a slice of stale bread. So honestly, this book was not bad. It was enjoyable enough. I just don't see myself continuing the series. I probably will end up unhauling this one, but I am glad that I gave it a chance. Next, let's talk about the 2 I did not even attempt to read. First, Fox by Nadine Brandis. I bought this book several years ago because I liked Nadine's AuthorTube videos. I don't think she makes YouTube videos anymore, but back in the day I enjoyed her content, and that's why I decided to buy this book. This is sort of a historical fantasy because it takes place in 17th century England surrounding the gunpowder plot, but in this world people, I think, have magical powers, and the main character is the son of Guy Fawkes. I think his name is Thomas, and Thomas is afflicted with this disease called stone plague that is gradually turning him into stone. So sort of like Grayscale from Game of Thrones. That sort of vibe. I guess saying I did not make any attempt to read this book is not entirely true, because before I put it on my self-destruct TBR, I did DNF this book. I just remember reading several chapters and not being super interested in what was going on, so I didn't have the motivation to finish it. So I did give this book a fair shot at one point in time, and I think because I already DNF'd it once, I was just not feeling motivated to pick it up, and that's why I ended up not reading it. So I will be unhauling this one and sending it to a better home. Then And I Darken by Kiersten White. Part of me wants to break the rules and hold on to this book because there's a part of me that still kind of wants to read it, but if I'm being realistic with myself, I have owned this book for years and I have never once read a single page of it, so I feel like I need to be realistic with myself and acknowledge I'm not going to read this book. So I probably will still force myself to unhaul it. If someday I decide that I really want to read it after all, I can get it from the library, I guess. This is a young adult. Again, is it historical or is it fantasy? I think it does take place in our real world, and basically it's a reimagining of what if the infamous Vlad the Impaler was a woman. Part of me does still want to read this because I have read other books by Kiersten White and I have enjoyed them. I liked the Camelot Rising trilogy, and I really enjoyed The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. I thought that book was really great. So there is part of me that still wants to read this, but I've had it for years and years. I've had so many opportunities to read it, and I have not. So I think I just need to be honest with myself and acknowledge that I'm never going to read it, so I should just unhaul it. And those are the rules of the These Books Will Self Destruct video. I didn't read it, so it's time for it to destruct. I guess we're going to say goodbye to this one and send it to someone who actually will read it. Now, the two books that I DNF'd. I will be talking about these in my July wrap-up, so you can hear a little bit more about my thoughts in that video when it comes out. I DNF'd Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. This is another one that my subscribers wanted me to read, so I am sorry to everyone who wanted me to read this book. I failed you. The reason I DNF'd this is I just wasn't connecting with any of the characters. This book begins with an action scene, and I know in theory that sounds really exciting, but action scenes need to have stakes, and there's no stakes if I, the reader, am not invested in any of the characters yet. I read like close to 70 pages of this, I think, and I still wasn't connecting with anyone in it. So that's why I ultimately decided to DNF this, and now I will be unhauling it. Sorry to everyone who wanted me to read this book. I'm sorry if it's your favorite. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't, really grabbing me, and that's why I just decided to call it quits. And lastly, I also DNF'd A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This is the first in a young adult mystery series, and it basically follows Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson, who are the descendants of the Holmes and Watson, as they work together to solve a mystery at their boarding school. I read over 100 pages in this book, and I thought about powering through and forcing myself to finish it. But I just decided I need to love myself, and I don't need to put myself through that. I actively disliked this book, and I'm sorry if it's your favorite. I'm sorry if this is a book that you love. I wanted to love it, but I did not like Charlotte as a character at all. She did not feel like a real person to me, and this book gave me such not like the other girls vibes in regards to Charlotte. Basically what I mean by that is I felt like she was just depicted as being so different from everybody else, so smart, so capable, and it just felt like too much. There were also, lines in the book where it's like, oh, Charlotte, she smelled like soap, not like perfume like all the other girls at school did. And I'm like, what's wrong with smelling like perfume? Like, liking feminine things, stereotypically feminine things, does not mean you're less than. Like, I just want to read a book with a really capable, intelligent female character who also wears skirts and perfume. And that doesn't take away from her strength at all. Like, it felt like they were saying, oh, she's so different from all the other women, but there's nothing wrong with being like other women. it's okay. And I just could not stand her as a main character. So I'm sorry if you love this book. I know it was very popular on BookTube back in the day. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to myself. And this is the only book on this list that I actively have negative feelings towards. Yeah, this one's gone. This one's gone for sure. It just was not for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you love this book. Just my personal opinion. So those books will be joining my unhaul pile. Now let's talk about some things I have coming up on the channel. I do have a stack of books I've unhauled sitting on my bedroom floor. They've been there for 3 months. And the reason they're still there is because I had an idea for something I could do with them, and I just finally need to make it happen. I need to make that video. So I am hoping to film a video where I go to all of my little free libraries. I am planning to take these books that I've unhauled around to the little free libraries so other people can find them. I don't know, depending on how many little free libraries I go to and what they have room for, I may end up having to donate some of the other books somewhere else. Or maybe I can try to sell them to a used bookstore. I know there are some used bookstores in my general area where they do purchase books from you and give you store credit, so that's another option to consider. Definitely keep an eye out for that little free library video though. It's gonna happen sooner or later. I've been thinking about it for months, so I need to finally film that. Now, I am not at this point creating another self-destruct TBR, but I am thinking that in 2024, I am going to make a unhaul project video. I think I have, gone through most of the books on my physical TBR that I'm not sure if I'm going to still read. I don't know if that sentence made any sense, but I've made 2 self-destruct videos, and they were basically dedicated to books that I bought at the beginning of my BookTube experience, and I didn't know if I was going to read them anymore. I think I have gone through most of those at this point, so I don't know if I'm going to make another self-destruct TBR, because most of the books on my physical TBR, I do genuinely believe I'm going to read them. Believe being the key word. So I think in 2024, I'm going to create a year-long reading project that's going to be dedicated to not only reading books on my physical TBR, but also on my Goodreads TBR, because there are some books on there that have been on my TBR since 2018, and so I think I'm going to challenge myself to read those in the next year and delete them from my TBR if I don't read them. So that is a video I am thinking about making months down the line. Keep your eyes peeled for that as well. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if one of these books is one of your all-time favorites. Nothing personal, just my personal opinions. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a splendid rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.